business. Sonia, welcome and thank you so much for doing this session for us. Well, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Sonia Manchanda today, who is going to be the speaker. Well, Sonia is the co-founder and design chief at EDM Design and Consulting. She's a design evangelist and has led projects with business leaders and different corporations, making design thinking integral to their business, culture, brands, and experiences. In fact, she's been deeply involved with creating the Manipal brand, its values, and even its sub-brands. At EDM, some of the projects that she has led include the 19th Commonwealth Games, experience design for the metro stations in Rio, Brazil, branding for the Kochi Metro and Kochi Airport, and many more. She is a graduate from the National Institute of Design, and she has also shared her lessons from her experience and practice with presidents and CEOs of different businesses, academia, through several of her workshops and training programs that are designed in a way that allow you to share working, progressing with skill, speed, and imagination. Bringing together design practice, entrepreneurship, and knowledge, her mission is to spread design as a way of thinking and doing things, particularly for businesses as well. Well, with that, I won't keep you all waiting. I'll hand over this session to Sonia. And once again, Sonia, thank you very much for joining us. And I hope all of you here will enjoy the session. Over to you, Sonia.
Thank you, Mamta. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yeah, okay. It's wonderful to connect with you and to take forward all the conversations that we've been having.
I know. Glad we could have this. Good luck.
Yeah. Since all of us are not face to face, I think I'll start with really first just going into the meaning of design. And it's a strange word which means many different things to many different people. And if you look at it, the objective meaning or the dictionary meaning, the simple meaning is intention. It's about creating a vision of something, creating a plan for something. It's about planning for something. That's what really is. It's about if you want to create an object, create an action, the plan behind it is design. So the objective meaning is that, but the subjective meaning keeps changing. And it changes depending on the shoes you're wearing and where you're standing. So if you look at the subjective meaning of design for the designer, it's really the process of understanding what people want, what people need, what people aspire for, and creating something of meaning and value from there. The subjective meaning of design for, say, a consumer is the end result. So it's all right for the fact that a consumer, or when we put ourselves in a consumer's shoes, that we say that, oh, for me it's a beautiful, beautiful object, or something that works well, that brings beauty to my life. So for a consumer, design is that. For entrepreneurs, and here I have to mention the poster child of design and entrepreneurship, Steve Jobs. For him, it was a way of looking into the future, way ahead before anybody else has, and creating that future. It's about creating, it's looking ahead and creating into other people's future, literally. And for leaders in business, and this is where we are getting to in today's conversation, design is a mindset and a behavior, both. Just a mindset is not enough. It's also a set of behaviors. And that behavior is about constantly flipping problems into opportunities. When people come to you for advice, when you're faced with any situation, it's about really seeing the positive in it and flipping a problem into an opportunity. It's about being insightful about what the customer's real needs and aspirations are to then be able to innovate uniquely. It's not competition that you're looking at. It's really your own consumer, your own customer you're looking at. and that end customer and trying to figure out what is it that their real needs are and innovating from there. It's about creating a creative culture, where talent working around you feels that it is safe to be brave. It's safe to be brave and take risks, where it is expected of them almost to balance the everyday and also create the future. So really, design definition itself changes. Let's focus on design in business and how we can create impact with design in business. Can you see the presentation? Can you see the presentation now? Okay. Yesterday, really steady growth for the business and a size would have been the way to go. But today, there are disruptive new ideas, and those ideas have the support of funding. They have access to innovative technologies and are changing the way we do everything really. So in this situation, business which has actually great resources is struggling to sort of grapple with these challenges. And what is it that we can do here in this situation? Let's see if you can relate to some of the typical challenges that are being faced, and let's talk about how we can respond. Yeah. So really, like we said, business is challenged every day. There is the challenge of all kinds of uncertainty. There's technology regulations. There is new things happening in the economy worldwide. The world order literally keeps changing. How can business adopt a more reactive short-term approach while staying focused on an informed long-term strategy? So here in this situation, can we look at business approaching, unpredictability with ingenuity and imagination? Taking for a fact that unpredictability is going to happen, it's going to affect business. How can you respond all the time with ingenuity and imagination? And seeing this as an opportunity and the chance to, experiment and create new value while at the same time sharpening strategies for the long term. Moving on, business always complains of lack of diversity. And that lack of diversity, so in some way or the other, always continues. And it leads to a narrow view and a very stagnant culture. And there's a sense of status quo happens here. And of course, diversity means different things to different businesses, and that needs to be defined and needs to be grappled with. But however, supposing instead of grappling with diversity, we see it as an advantage and we foster and develop different ideas and viewpoints, creating a singular culture that takes in these different viewpoints, finding cohesion and integrating all these viewpoints. That itself is an opportunity. Actually, if you look at that, India is a great example of diversity thriving, and that is what perhaps brings a lot of people to have a lot of interest in India. Complexity. Again, India is a good example of complexity as a design system. Levels of complexity with every new technology, with every new change, with every new geography that business adds on, the level of complexity just keeps going higher and higher. And as things get more and more connected, this whole complexity is coming at us, it's coming closer to us, and we're grappling with it. Here's where it's important to develop system thinking capabilities. You have all these dots. How do you organize them into a system so that they're not all jumbled up? And that itself is an opportunity to create, and we'll talk more about how we can do this, but that itself is an opportunity to evolve fresh processes, models, products and services, and create new points of convergence. And of course, there's integrity. I mean, we talk about corruption, and there's, I mean, it's everywhere. It's in every field, and everyone struggles. How do you sort of keep that integrity and yet succeed all the time? You know, we face all kinds of dilemmas and challenges on a daily basis, and that again is an opportunity. If you look at the flip side of it, if you use your creativity in the right way and not in the wrong way, and remain idealistic, opportunity, and see what idealistic, opportunistic, and optimistic. There's a lot that you can do with it. Data. It's a big buzzword, and I was at a conference yesterday, and apparently in Bangalore, the traffic police has many cameras and is always looking at what people are doing. How do you use that information? How do you use data? Too much information, is it a good thing or a bad thing? How do you pass through it? So data is good, but it's an asset only when converted into knowledge and when it's converted into wisdom. And that wisdom can then drive creative and meaningful action. So really, data without design is of no value. Data without insights is of no value. And when you have insights, they become a great starting point for action. Technology, of course. Just keeping pace with emerging technology. As new technology comes up, the older one becomes redundant. Embracing the unforeseen breakthroughs that come, and keeping business flexible to explore technology and possibilities. This is no longer an option. So technology is an opportunity, it has to be embraced. But to embrace it again, design thinking can play a very useful role. As we go into new markets, as we globalize, as companies globalize, business globalizes, there are fresh challenges. And there are, unlikely competitors, especially new geographies which may have their own layers of control and complexity. One of the important things that design processes do is giving you this ability and giving you the tools to immerse and absorb in new cultures and to see how these cultures will naturally integrate. With new processes, methods, technologies, how do you adapt something that you may have created in a new context? So these are some of the challenges. You need to see whether these are relevant to you or not. Before we go on to deconstructing the design approach and the design mindset and design behaviors and how you can use them in your context. Customer loyalty, which is the most important one. How do you keep them loyal to you when there is just so much happening, there is so much new being created, the entire online world is a whole new system that is being created. So how do you reach them through this noise? It is becoming increasingly more difficult to reach this customer, and getting to them and keeping them loyal and keeping them engaged. It's no longer about brand. It's about almost a relationship that you form that you must sustain really well. So really, how do you do that? You do that perhaps again, like Steve Jobs did, anticipating what people want, staying one step ahead. And it needs a great deal of intelligence and planning to do that. And the innovation culture is an idea is top of the agenda for all the big companies. You hear talk about design thinking, you hear talk about this whole innovation culture. And if a business is stable, isn't it scary to create this? Because suddenly you're saying that you will throw everything into chaos. People will be free to create new things. People will sort of define their own projects and take them in the directions they want. So how can you balance the two? The good thing is that, the good news is that once you have established a process-based discipline within an organization, so people know that this is the way to go, it is actually the natural next step, to be able to create another system on top of it, which is an overlay, which is a cultural overlay. So if you've got process, that's fine. People are doing things a certain way, but people are not machines, you know. And the culture that you create within could be one of creativity, one of finding inspiration within, one of finding inspiration outside, and firing them up to do their work, follow the same process, but with far more imagination. So, really looking at challenges and looking at where the opportunities lie, the whole idea of flipping problems into opportunities, in which context challenges themselves are opportunities to create new value, new meaning, new behavior, new cultures, and to create tangible impact. Let's talk about how we can do this and how design can help get us there. So we've established that design is beyond just aesthetics, beyond just function, beyond just form, especially for a business leader. It is beyond just the end outcome. So it's more than that. It's a creative, fluid, collaborative, open, and human-centered approach to explore solutions imaginatively. It's also a way of suspending your fears temporarily to leap into the unknown. So unlike analytical thinking, which is associated with the breaking down of ideas, which looks back at things that exist and sort of deduces from there, design thinking is a creative process of based on the building up of ideas, of being free to ask, what if, why not? Of course, if it's not been tried before, then it needs to be tried now. So, and coming to the process, here's how there are various views to it, and I prefer the idea of just talking about design rather than design thinking as a buzzword. The problem with design thinking as a buzzword is the fact that people think it's a set of tools. It's much more than that. It's not just a set of tools. Using a set of tools in a given context is not going to get you there. It's a lifelong journey of learning that you have sort of to undertake, and you just get better and better. You'll be surprised at how good you can get. But really, if you talk about what people are really talking about when they say design thinking, this is what they mean. They mean that you always start from empathizing, learning about the audience for whom you're designing. You go on to defining, constructing a point of view, constructing an argument. You do that. You ideate from there. You can work in isolation. You can work in a group. You can work with peers. You can work in a chaotic sort of scenario, and where you're free to ideate. Nothing is wrong. Everything is correct. You ideate. But then you start getting real. You're funneling all these ideas. So there's a sort of divergent phase, and then there's a convergent phase. You start choosing and you say, okay, here's idea 1, here's idea 2, here's idea 3. Let's build a representation. Let's build a representation of this idea or more of the ideas and share it. Let's validate this back with the end customer, with the audience with whom I started with, and say, do you want this? Do you think it will work for you? And you don't listen for a yes or a no. You listen carefully to what is said between the words. And you will really understand whether it's working, whether it's worth taking forward. If it's worth taking forward, well, let's jump into prototyping it and taking the prototype again back and say, so is this what you were thinking of? Not so much this is what I thought you were thinking of, but really, is this what will fit your need? And you watch, and this is a very, very iterative process. It's not a one-time thing. That's why it's a mindset and a behavior. You have to constantly do this, and post which you test it. It looks easy, but all of this is iterative. It's about testing it and then taking it to market. And sometimes your entire hypothesis may be destroyed, but that's really part of what it is. It doesn't destroy you. You as a person are not destroyed. You are actually better for it. You learn something. So another way of looking at this, and you should really grab a copy of this book if you haven't already. This is Creative Intelligence by Bruce Nussbaum. And he's further simplified. He's the person who many years ago brought the idea of design to business. Design was something that was working in isolation, very boutique, very niche. It was about making things beautiful. It wasn't an idea that was, unless business wanted a product design, it wasn't so relevant. But what he really did was, as editor of Business Week, he brought a design company to the cover of Business Week and talked of design thinking. Don't know where the term originated, and you can't be sure whether it was Bruce or whether it was IDEO, but the term sort of started taking shape by itself then. And he talked about how business could really use sort of lessons from the way designers work. And so design thinking became a buzzword. Design thinking started getting applied by business. Hasselplattner invested in setting up design, sort of a very different kind of design institute where business could use design. And all that is history. Now, after many years, Bruce's point of view is that if you start using it as just a toolkit, it's not the right approach, because it's really more about discovering your own creative intelligence. So there isn't really a left side and a right side of the brain. Actually, we are all born creative. Education destroys it. That's not something I've said, but it's a famous quote. And it's about discovering your own creative intelligence. And it's about starting with, and if you want to study the way designers work and learn from that, that's good. But you can make your own path, and whatever you're doing when you're trying to create something of value, you need to start from studying what came before, and getting deep into the subject. So it's about really deeply immersing in the subject and mashing up seemingly unrelated fields or bodies of knowledge, being aware of your own knowledge and skills as you look for connections. And the connections have a way of happening on their own. This much like they say, when you know what you want, the universe conspires with you. When you're looking and you're looking hard enough, you start finding the connections yourself. You sleep on it, and in the morning solutions emerge. So, knowledge framing, knowledge mining, going on to framing. It's about a lot of it is, well, framing is actually more about reframing. It's that entire thing of flipping problems into opportunities, finding solutions. When you're looking at all of this knowledge, the solutions start forming. Here's where you start framing that this is what we could do here. This is the path we could follow, or this is what we could create. Here's a process we can design. You start framing exactly what is the solution you're looking for. So something creative starts coming out of here. Then you start playing with that idea. You play, and when you play, you make and destroy things many times, very freely. So it's that freedom that playing gives you, where it's okay to fail. And once you've played, you get into sort of making, sharpening up, and making something of value and building up something. And the most important stage really is pivoting. You scale from inspiration to production. You scale from being creative and applying the creative process to from creativity to creation. Here's a particular thing you put out into the market. You put out there. You're actually now confident of making 10,000 of this, of applying it to a large scale organization. So supposing you are working in a large organization. Okay, I've just got a message saying that you're not able to hear anything for the past 1 minute. Is this for one person? Is this for everybody? Okay, great. Okay, fabulous. So most people can hear it, and I hope the people who couldn't hear it can hear it now. Okay. So, so it's about, this is a very important point, and this point comes up all the time. This entire point of pivoting. Um, you may ask, how do you change a legacy system if it exists? What if we do the wrong thing? In which case, the best way to do it is create something on the side, test it, make sure it's working, then bring it within. If you understand what I mean, so if it's a process or if it's a product or anything, you create it, put it out in a small way, see that it works. And then when you know it's really working, then it's the time to respond fast to that and pivot out and, sort of go into full-scale production and really put everything behind it, marketing might or whatever else, or a great belief system within the organization, make it integral to the culture if it's a process. That's what. So this is Bruce's argument, and it's a good read because it really opens up your mind. Within our own firm, within EDM, which is a practice that I'm one of the co-founders of, we've looked at a process which is very simple, which is one of insights, ideas, and implementation, where we always start from a deep understanding of cultures, of people, their behaviors, what is it that they're comfortable with, and what is really a key insight here. What is, and I'll demonstrate this to you through some of the cases I will share. That what is the key insight here about these people? What is the main thing about their behavior? Is there a problem here? Is there something that is really driving certain behaviors? So it's that deep understanding of culture, of behavior, and therefore culling an insight. And this is of groups of people. From there we look at now what is that big game-changing idea that we can create here that builds on this insight, and has its own unique story. Then we create the systems to be able to take something from mind to market with skill, speed, and imagination to take an idea. Because the faster you take it out there, the faster you know if it works or if it fails. If it fails, again, there's a learning there and you can build on that. So broadly, this is how we approach things. It's a very think, feel, do model. And this is just to give you a background of where I'm coming from and where I'm talking from, the shoes I'm standing in. We have three sort of systems operating here. One is a learning system which creates learning experiences to expand the mind of people at every level. And this is grown out of the knowledge has come out of our practice, where we looked at creating value and meaning for India uniquely with design, and that is idiom. So from idiom is the practice, spread is knowledge, and agreement is another space that we have of, it's really about accelerating creativity and creating value out of it. So this is just to give you a small background. And I'm going to continue on talking about design, and you will see how our own progression from practice to knowledge to helping create mindsets has taken place. Because the evolution of the understanding of design itself has been that, where it was first a skill, and then perceived as more as knowledge, and then it's not just knowledge, because you can't just apply the same knowledge to different situations, to different contexts. So it's then about cultivating a certain mindset that allows you to grab whatever knowledge you want from Google, from real life, from other sources, from people, from human beings, and having the mindset to do so. Having the mindset to search and always be curious, to be always looking and finding and not starting from the most obvious solutions. But having all kinds of knowledge available to you, not when you start something, but just as behavior. As behavior, you're always looking, you're always observing people, you're always looking at things, you're looking behind a piece of design to see how well it has been finished, you're looking and trying to understand the way in which a certain set of people work. So it becomes your mindset, it becomes your behavior. It becomes your way of solving any problem where you start from curiosity, you always have empathy, it's your behavior now, and you're always ideating and are not scared of taking that risk of going on and experimenting, and you become a creator. You become a creator, you become somebody with a creative mindset. So it really goes from skill to knowledge to mindset. I'm going to go to some cases to help understand this entire thing much better and how it has been applied to business by us in our practice. Most of you would have visited Food Bazaar. It's the food department or the food business within Big Bazaar. So the understanding here, and when I talk about this, it's collectively within Future Group, design is very, very important. So the work I show here is really the work done by IDEUM and the Future Ideas team and the Future Group team all together as one, which is really, really important because the purpose here was more important than sort of working in silos separately. So here, the understanding was that there are two kinds of women, Indian women who are the customers at Food Bazaar. We focused it, we understood the fact that when it comes to food shopping, it's really the woman you're talking to. And there is the migrant and there is the traditional woman. The migrant woman, as she moves from one city to another, she doesn't really become like 100% modern and leave behind her rituals or traditions. She actually, while she's exploring the new, she is also experimenting, she's also pining for the old. She's pining for what makes her who she is uniquely. Okay, and culture is very, very important in the Indian context. So she's missing some of those things that she's had to leave behind as she's moved. The traditional woman, she sort of is programmed or has programmed herself to sort of look at value, think about family, trying to get them fresh, healthy, tasty meals, and that is her orientation. However, even she is open to experimenting and being something new to her family. So that was our understanding, and this in fact is an artwork created and put up in the Future Group office, so we never forget who's the customer we are serving. So empathy is that important. They don't put art on their walls, they put information, or let's call it data like this or insights like this on their walls. So understanding that, we went on to, over the years, and Food Bazaar or any other business, we design businesses and we design them almost the way you would design software, where you do version 1 and then you evolve it, you change it, you create something new, you preserve what works and you destroy what doesn't work. It's a continuous process. But however, the soul remains intact. So some of the things that were developed in Food Bazaar in its version 1 was this idea of, yes, we're creating India's first modern supermarket, but while doing so, we don't want to take away ideas like being able to feel the grain that you can do at the Kirana store. Why should we take it away? It's part of our culture. So let's keep that, but add that layer of modernness. So let's take away the negative labor. So look at the woman who's the migrant woman who's traveling and who's moved cities. She doesn't have the support system that the traditional woman has. So let's take away her negative labor. which means all the cutting, chopping, etc. that she would have to do if she had to make, say, an avial, and make it all available so that she just keeps the what we would call the positive effort, where she would still want to serve her family, really good food, served well, but we take away the unnecessary labor for her. So this was some of the basis of the design, and going to say version 3 or 4, or I don't know which version, but we had the opportunity in Rajaji Nagar in Bangalore, where we had more time to develop the store before we opened. So we said, let's do something completely unique here. What is that frontier that we haven't crossed yet? And one of the challenges was that, I mean, Future Group or none of the Indian retailers are really known for their service. So we said that, let's look at the key insight. If you remember, I spoke earlier about insights. Let's look at the key insight here. If you look at the Indian household, what is the key insight? The key insight is that you go to an Indian household, you will always be served really well. You will be offered water, then you will be offered tea, then you'll be offered something to eat, and you're really looked after, which is actually a little bit different from maybe Western households, but this is true of culturally true of every community. So how can we bring that selfless service, that idea of seva, selfless service that you get when you come in here? So we developed this idea of seva, and we designed the idea of seva. So by design, there's a lot of churn in the retail industry. It's very, late hours that people keep, and it's very tough. So we had to design systems so even if people changed, the systems would still be working. So it's not just about how you design the shelving or how you design the communication. It's really about working together to design those systems. And given that, all credit to the Future Group team, the way it was implemented was so beautiful. Here we did things like you could taste something before you bought it. So a counter was created where you can come and actually taste things before you could try them before you buy them, because that's your right, you're going to buy something new. From something that was experimented with to what it went on to become was a counter that different companies would buy to put their products at, and to serve them. We designed sort of the idea of having different kinds of products for different communities, the idea of having meals ready. All of that was designed as part of the system itself. Here's the layout of the store. And you can see how there's discovery and exploration at all levels. The interesting outcome, I want to tell you the outcome of this, of effective implementation of this, is that people spend a lot more time than they would in a regular store in this store. Women actually spend more on fashion upstairs in Big Bazaar, higher than any other place. People get their atta ground here. It has very high, there's a great relationship that customers have formed with the sales staff here. I'm just going to, sort of take you through these now without saying much because we're running out of time. Here are some sketches of the store as it was designed. And we'll share this presentation with you later. You can see this working. So from a customer's point of view, it's a 1, 2, 3. 3 steps to getting everything done. All of it is communicated and sort of put forward very, very nicely so that people can demand, and it's their right to sort of get things done here. So, if you see the slide, who do you think we are talking about? So you'd be surprised to hear that the U.S. Army also uses a design to plan for uncertainty. This is worth reading about in greater detail. I mean, it's all available on the internet. So PNG is another place that a company that has used design thinking to completely reinvent itself. Maybe at another time we can talk in detail about this. But what they did was create a set of internal champions. What worked over time was to train up and create a set of internal champions who would always be available. Again, it's about creating that mindset and having these people available whenever a tough challenge needed to be grappled with. Again, you can study this in greater detail when we upload the presentation, but it really explains how it worked out for PNG. Apple, of course, it integrates hardware, software, it makes design as part of its culture. We've done a detailed study this year, slide 39, of how Apple has integrated design within its culture. So given that we don't have a lot of time, I'm going to jump ahead and tell you that we can talk about this for a whole day and more. These are some examples of work we've done. We've designed museums using design thinking and turn whole problems on their heads. We've used design to rethink business schools itself and create a V school. Interesting situation where we were designing the brand, but we ended up looking at the culture and the architecture of the space. We're very proud of what we've done, and they're very happy, and it works out. Here's a slide on the design mindset, but again, we can just begin to talk about it in so much time. There's a lot more, there's a lot more time that one has to spend in sort of developing this, and like I said, it has to be a lifelong journey. We are still learning ourselves. So I'm going to spend a minute just telling you about what we sort of had to develop over time. It's a program on sort of helping you inculcate the design mindset. It's something that we sort of have developed and offer it together with Manipal Global, which we customize in terms of a size. It could go from 3 weeks to 4 weeks to even more. And we have sort of tools that we offer. We help you understand, how you can leverage design, help you develop the design mindset and design behaviors, and give you a set of tools that you can use and customize as and when you require. And it applies at every level, especially if you are leading projects of any sort, especially if you want to be somebody who's creating value within your organization. I would really recommend that you invest your time and energy in understanding and using and practicing design behaviors and developing a design mindset for life. I think now we will sort of open up for questions. You can send us your questions and we'll answer them. Okay, so one question was how is it different from in different countries? In different countries, it always starts from culture. So cultures are different, behaviors are different, design is not different, the design approach is the same. So you always have to start from understanding people and their behaviors. For instance, we were developing the experience design for metro stations in Rio. We were part of a consortium, and the consortium collectively had to start from understanding the various users and their behaviors, and from a broader perspective, the culture of the city, to then start to design. Sudhakar has asked about elephant company, butterfly company. It's a very interesting metaphor. So there is the elephant company, the large company, who's perhaps talks about design, but design is its tail. You know, design is there, it'll be there, but it's not going to change anything within the company. Okay, there is the butterfly company that flirts with design as an idea, but it makes superficial design changes. And then there is the bat company which uses design to navigate complexity. It is a hybrid creature, and it uses design thinking to navigate complexity. I can send you a more detailed write-up about this if you want. To create, continue ask, how can we create a design mindset in our organization? It is by repeatedly sort of approaching challenges by design. So you take on your toughest challenges, you look at an outcome, you define the outcome, and you work with the design process, and you do this repeatedly, you tackle various challenges with it, and that's how you create a mindset. And much like PNG, you need to have more than one person, because if it is fewer people, the questions that come up, the logical questions that come up can totally kill that mindset within an organization. The design approach can be the same across countries, although the challenges are different. It's like I said, it's a mindset, it's a behavior, and it doesn't matter what the challenge is, you can still approach it by design. What are the challenge that we see in India? Somebody has asked, what is the challenge we see in India? The challenge we see in India is the complex culture. One is the fact that we have a complex culture. The other is the fact that we don't know when to pivot from argument to creation. So the whole idea of creation we don't get into, we argue too much, whereas actually we should just prototype, be it an idea, be it a product, be it a process, we should just go ahead and test it out. How do you ensure agile design? Actually, we practice it all the time. You ensure agile design by not asking too many questions, but actually prototyping effectively and fast. Design can be, yes, of course, but it can be self-generated based on your own imagination, and really design at the end is about your own imagination. The information helps you sort of mitigates the risk of failure a little bit. But if you are willing to put your chops and put your money behind your own imagination, then great. That's what Steve Jobs did. He suffered for many, many years. Nobody talks about that before he found the right solution. Until then, he was following his own gut feeling about things. What do you mean? I didn't understand, Vidima, what you're saying with pivoting, not confuse the customer about the brand. No, pivoting is about taking that idea out to the customer on a larger scale after you've tested it on a small scale. Nice question about change these new behaviors and how do you affect that? Um, how do you use design thinking to affect that? Creation is infectious. Okay, so you will learn. I mean, it's one of those things you can learn to do where when there's a challenge, you get a bunch of people together and keep the time very less. Okay, but look at how you can create many solutions, create really fast. There's no time to ask questions. Make it competitive, make it collaborative, all at the same time. And show by example how it works. And you can learn to do that. You show by example that it works like this, and you actually use it to solve a challenge. It's actually creativity is innate, is natural behavior. Inhibiting it is not. However, we've always inhibited creativity because we are afraid of failure. So we've inhibited creativity, but it's actually really natural behavior. And once it's very infectious behavior, like I said. So you need to lead by example, demonstrate it, and you'll see people sort of following through. Abhishek, you're saying it's a big call to challenge the status quo and take such a radical approach. It takes us a full circle that today you don't have a choice. Entire businesses can become redundant. Entire areas can become redundant, and MG Road can become redundant when change happens. Change destroys everything in its stead unless you get up and respond to it. So you don't have a choice. So, I mean, as individuals, as organizations, we don't have a choice but to embrace a mindset embrace a mindset of creativity, of wanting to grapple with challenges, and discovering our own creative intelligence. Nobody is born with design. We are all born creative, and a design, like I said in the beginning, is a process that can be learned. It's a mindset that can be inculcated and a set of behaviors that need to be practiced. Yes, I'm sharing this presentation with you and much more if you come and meet us and continue this conversation. Interesting question. What is a critical point in business when design thinking would be most receptive? Actually, most entrepreneurs have understood the value of design, and they like to bring design to stage zero. Because when you are creating, you are starting from who your end customer is and thinking how you can create systems here, how can you create value here. Before you're creating a product and you're creating a service. So the smartest entrepreneurs are the ones who have realized now that design thinking is the way. I mean, you start from there, you bring it to stage zero. You have no choice but to remain nimble and agile, and therefore, at all stages, businesses have to be more receptive to design. There's a question here, where can buildings have the most impact on business performance? What do you mean by that? Additionally, there are a lot of videos that we can share with you. However, just to keep the quality of the transmission, we haven't done that, and not to jump places, but they're all available on a spread channel. I think the Manipal Global team will share it with you. And we've been talking about doing this session for a while with Global, and it's a new topic, but it's an important topic. So, if you want to hear more about it, you can tell us. The feel. It's about uh, the feel part is this whole thing of if you try to logically understand people's behavior, it won't work. It's about being really, really deep and really deeply understanding, and that's where the feel part comes in. If you can feel somebody's problem, so if there's a child crying and you can really feel what the child is going through, which is where you are sensitive to them, then you're already on the journey to finding a solution. If you do it mechanically, you put only your mind into it and you don't put your heart into it, you're less likely to find a solution. Can you repeat there's a whole lot of questions, so somebody said I haven't answered their questions, could you please repeat them? Um, uh, Somebody asked about design thinking in the context of designing learning programs. Again, it's an approach. So one would be understanding theory, the other would be converting it into practice, converting it into trying to create something new, which is when the design thinking approach can be applied. So it's really a creative approach, so it can be applied to, I mean, doctors can apply it. In just about engineers apply it, anyone can apply that approach. As an approach, it's not just for designers. Yes, of course. Design should be considered in a cross-cultural setting because there are a lot of insights within specific cultures that can be applied, those insights get applied elsewhere. Design is not just a creative instinct. Creative instinct is what we are born with, but there is a lot of rigor in design. There is a process in design, and it goes far beyond being just a creative instinct. Good question. What steps should be taken at the top management level to build culture for? One is ensure that as a culture, behavior, and a mindset, it seeps through the organization. The other is you're not inculcating or bringing in design thinking because it's it's what everybody else is doing, but it's really to create new value. In which case, you need to create a safe place to innovate to create new value. So you have a bunch of people who can take on challenges using the design mindset behavior. And culturally, it's part of your organization. But beyond that, also creating the opportunity for them, making that safe place, that safe time, that safe opportunity. Talking about a vision where you want to create the future, and you want a bunch of people who have sort of inculcated this culture and behavior to innovate with you, to lead that change with you. A foolproof marketing strategy. Okay. A foolproof marketing strategy is to um, uh, sort of um, have no marketing strategy. Be constantly responsive to your customer, anticipate their needs, okay, and be one step ahead. If you are that, then you have a relationship and you have loyalty, and it's far more powerful than a marketing strategy. What are the do's and don'ts? The do's would be that the do's are definitely understand your end customer. The do's are you may have a great idea, but if the market is and the customer is not ready for it, maybe it's too early. I'm just going to mix up the do's and don'ts, but fundamentally, don't assume you know everything. So always be open to new knowledge. Okay. Don't be afraid of experimenting because it's not been done before is why it needs to be done. Um, mm, Actually, my presentation covers most of those points, but I can separately put that together for you again if you want. Yes, you need to. Actually, to be able to create that marketing strategy is where design thinking can be really, really useful to you. So, designing your marketing strategy. So next year, next session should you should really design your marketing strategy. Before we wrap up, could you remember to write to info.corporate at globalnext, globalnext .edu.my for any information that you need about this program and future programs. So that's info.corporate at globalnext.edu.my. So let me ask you a question before we close up. How many people have, is there anybody here who has attended a design thinking program and sort of gained from that? Within your organization, have there been attempts to sort of create that design culture? Is this something that you would be interested in doing? In which case you could recommend it to your seniors. Some people have said that they would like to recommend to their seniors. Do recommend it to your seniors and remember you can't learn it in an hour. You need to, it's like playing. So it's like playing a sport. So we can teach you the rules, we can play with you, and we can come back and play many more times and make sure that you have a winning strategy. But it's a journey, and it's a journey, and it takes time to become a champ. So we'll wrap up here and stay in touch with us. Hello. Yeah. Hmm. You talked to him, Dr. Shweta? Everything is okay.